getting set up and taking some measurements for Teddy's turbine side. What I have here, I'm going to be running the exhaust manifolds. I have some nice flanges here, and what I'm going to be doing is ordering these measuring roughly
YouTube video out now. Like, comment, subscribe.
Okay, why do I have a VR6 engine in my workout room? Because my shelves are full of VR6 engines and I don't have much space, so I had to drag this VR6 or roll it on a cart over into an area where I have enough room to work on another VR6 engine. So this engine, what I'm basically doing is I'm setting up a degree wheel on the crankshaft, and that way we can gather the information that's necessary for syncing, adjusting, getting the information for the Cam Lobe. Continuing with the setup of my direct injection pump, I need to get some critical data entered into the software for the Motec, and that is we have to degree in the direct injection pump cam. So not the vehicle camshaft itself, but the pump camshaft. I have a degree wheel set up on a spare VR6 engine that I had laying around, and as you can see, we have that timed perfectly at TDC. And what I'm going to do is remove the extra accessories from off the front of this part of the engine. That's going to be a little more tedious. So what I have to do is remove the direct injection pump from off of here and set up a dial indicator. We want to measure where this pump is being stroked in degrees reference to crank reference. So that way we can enter that information in, whether it's before top dead center, after top dead center, and then we'll have the critical timing of the pump itself, and that will get us a great advantage of making sure we get this engine started properly off the DI system. So next step, let's take off these accessories. I'm going to tilt the engine back so that we don't damage the degree wheel, because as you can see, it's a little wider than the block itself. We'll set something up behind that, reposition it, and I want to lay the engine over flat so that way gravity pretty much will have the Cam Lobe for the direct injection pump, the cam follower, pretty much easily being pulled down into the port to the board itself and resting against the cam itself. So that way, once I rotate the engine around, the gravity will allow the cam follower to just slide back in place. I'll pull that pump out, spray some lubricant in there. We'll make sure that the cam follower is sliding back and forth freely into that bore for the DI pump, and then we'll set our degree wheel up. I removed the lower fuel rail in the DI pump, and this is the cam follower that's actuating. You can see it's moving very freely. Let's pull it out and take a look. This cam follower, as you can see, is a roller cam follower, and it's key. So it rolls. This roller is rolling off of the Cam Lobe. Everything's spinning nice and free. And I sprayed a little extra lubricant on here just to make sure everything's going well. You want to make sure when you reinstall this, you install it properly and insert your key right back into the slot. And the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this magnet, and I'm just going to rotate the engine around and make sure that I have the engine tilted back far enough so that when I rotate it around and the cam follower actually pushes against or makes contact with the Cam Lobe itself for the direct injection pump, to make sure that it pushes up and that it drops back down and seats properly inside the bore and there's no binding. That way, once I set up my dial indicator, I'll know that I have full range of travel with no type of sticking or binding, and we can get some accurate measurements. Okay, let's take a look at this. I'm about to rotate the crankshaft around and let's see if we have free range of motion with good travel. Okay, perfect. I can actually see the cam follower dropping back down into the bore. Let me get back onto this. I have a flex head. I should have just used a straight ratchet. I removed my spark plugs out. So let's get a better look down in there, and you can actually see that it's coming back up in the bore. So we was actually up against the cam itself. We're back up. Engine bleeding off pressure. I do have the spark plugs out. So that's good. It's dropping on its own without any force from the dial indicator spring. That's exactly what I wanted. So that's great. So therefore, once my dial indicator is positioned in the center of that cam follower, right on that little circle dot, we'll set everything up to measure from that point. And we know that we'll have free travel inside our bore without any type of resistance. And excuse my mess, I actually have this engine in my weightlifting room. The only area I have left over has a solid floor where I can move an engine around and get some numbers off. My garage is packed with the cars and don't have much space. So either way, my degree wheel, had it set up on my crankshaft, and my pointer with some extensions, and extend that all the way down to the center of my cam lobe. We can shine a light in there just to see that I was directly on the button, centered right there, perfectly in the middle. And I did actually 6 combustion cycles, 6 revolutions to get numbers for when my direct injection pump hit max lift, as well as it came off the cam lobe. And I'm gonna enter all this information into the computer and see if we can get some good results with having a nice base file for startup off of the direct injection system. To keep my dial indicator fixed in place, I have a magnetic base, and I had a piece of angle iron. I use this for whenever I degreed the cams in for my GTI. But in this application, I used the same bracket and just mounted it to the pickup hook for the engine, for lifting the engine out of the vehicle. And that worked out pretty good. As you can see, I had these long extensions on the dial for the dial indicator. That worked out great. And for those that may be curious, I purchased this stuff several years ago. I got it from Anytime Tools. So this was the extension kit. Came with several long extensions. As you can see, I have them all extended out. And I bought the different style heads to mount onto your dial indicators for awkward positions. This came in handy for tight spots and stuff like that also. Same place, Anytime Tools. That's where I purchased it from. And of course, just a basic Harbor Freight dial indicator. And it worked. So I'm going to leave this setup currently as it is, just in case I have to strip off this vacuum pump in this side of the engine, because I still may possibly use this reference sensor right here. I actually purchased some different reference sensors, and this is a 5-volt DC reference sensor, and this will work great with the Motec. If I decide to use that for the cam lobe position also, I need to still pretty much have this configured in position. That way, once I rotate the engine around, I can measure the degrees where my reference sensor is in reference to top dead center. And what I would do is just simply hook 5 volts to it, hook up my meter, and as soon as my meter sees a signal of 5 volts, meaning when it picks up on the cam lobe itself, then I would have that information pretty accurate as far as this particular engine, and be able to enter that information into the Motec. But I got to decide on whether it's worth it. And of course, I had a Cam Degree kit from Summit Racing. But I'll decide if it's worth utilizing the input for this, which it more likely probably will be, or if I should just basically save that input for something else. I do have quite a few extra inputs left over on the Motec, but I'm pretty sure once we start hooking up a lot of sensors and different things like that, it's going to get pretty tight, but we'll see. Either way, more likely I may go ahead and do it just for the extra reference. And of course, the option is there in the Motec. It's actually turned off. But if I do decide to use that, I would turn it on to see what are the benefits of having that also. So therefore, we would have the mechanical aspect entered in where the cam lobe is in degrees of rotation with the engine, as well as a sensor that keeps track of that cam lobe as well. And as far as engine-wise, this was a 3.6 liter from out of an Audi Q7. As you can tell from the oil pan, it was from a SUV instead of a Passat version or CC. But pretty much the timing setup for the direct injection pump is very similar on those engines, pretty much across the board. And it's driven by a universal timing chain itself. That is a benefit instead of it coming off of the cam itself, so that way I don't have to take into account any type of rotation of cam degrees where the VVT is also activating and playing effect with the pump stroke itself. So due to the fact that a separate timing chain is driving the separate two-sided, double-sided cam lobe, that is, in my opinion, an advantage as well, and less critical timing that needs to be monitored and entered into the engine. But yeah, that's the basic setup. I'm pretty sure that information, plus or minus a few degrees, will at least still apply to Teddy's engine. Of course, once the engine's up and running, all we have to do is once it's adjust the scale and sweep back and forth until we find that sweet spot where the engine pretty much like it. And it would, I'm pretty sure, just plus or minus a few degrees, no more than 5 or 10 degrees. But we now have a reference point, and I can tighten that window up with a few degrees of making sure we have the proper fuel rail pressure and a sweet spot that the engine itself will like. The way these 3.6 liters moved around the SUVs fairly well, carrying around heavy payloads, and they did very good for what they was utilized for. Not bad. And as I've always stated before, I am very curious and still anxious to see what something like this would do in a light TT with a pretty nice sized turbocharger on it. And of course, an awesome ECU. These things have some massive ports. These ports are insane. And with some camshafts dialed in, nice turbo, hey, we'll see what we can push the limit to and then continue to build from there. But hey, let's just keep moving forward, get the information entered into the Motec. And I'm making baby steps, but these are important, critical steps. I could have put this ECU in the car a long time ago and just got it running off of the port fill injection, which is extremely easy compared to all the technical things that involves with the direct injection. But my goal and game plan was to utilize both, and we'll get an option to see if there's any benefits, which there are. I mean, you can see a lot of the cars that are running direct injection, the BMWs that are doing awesome with direct import injection, the Audi TTRSs, and of course the Corvettes, the newer style Vets is running that as well. So it has a lot of advantages. I mean, so many cars have swapped over to it, and forced induction mixed with port and DI, I think it's going to be an awesome combination, but we will see. I decided to swap out my digital indicator for my regular dial indicator, and I have some good results. I was very, very close with my measurements, but this time it was a lot easier because I had a digital reference mark of 4.95 millimeters of max stroke, and as I rotated the engine around, I could slow down instead of keep looking back and forth at my crankshaft wheel as well as the dial indicator. I was able to keep track, and just as soon as I get to 4.4, 4.5, rotate it all the way up into 4.9, then I could slow my rotational stroke down. And once I got to 4.95 millimeters, I could stop, record my results, and then I did the same thing as it comes off the loop and we zero itself out. Then I was able to document those results as well. So we're looking very, very good. My numbers are good and consistent. Every time I could just slow down my stroke, get a good accurate measurement, and we're on point. So I feel a lot better. My numbers was very, very close, only off like a degree. Some was exact and some was off like a degree or two because I'm stopping and looking back and forth. And as I stated, now we're good to go. I have my reference numbers to go off of. And one of the funny things is I can notice that this cam lobe has a little bit of wear. Once I got to two sides, I would get consistent 4.95, and on one stroke I would get 4.94, and that was the lobe that was a little more slightly worn than the other lobe as it rotates around. Of course, it's a double-sided lobe, 3 strokes per combustion cycle, and 2 of the numbers are going to be higher than the one side with the worn lobe. So that was a telltale sign of the lobe in this camshaft on the direct injection cam itself. It's, of course, known for wear, and that is starting to wear a little bit. But either way, we do have our baseline figures, and that's good to go.